Hi, Karen.
Hi.
How may we help you today?
Hi. My husband is in a long distance emotional affair with a woman who's in another country, and he has seen her twice. I know now, I've been following you since like 2 days after I discovered the affair back in November.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been implementing your principles. Everything that you have said would happen has happened.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are great. And I am really, really so blessed that I found you.
Well, thank you.
My question is, with the long distance affairs, it lasts longer. And I understand that. Right now it's going on about 18 months. She's a married Christian woman. He's a married Christian man. So there's a lot of morality pull and push. And he, even like when I found out about it, he was definitely in phase 2. And I see that now. And that was back in November. But it almost feels like my responses, because of everything that you've advised, and he and I were we're really good friends. And so you had said to one of your callers, were they pushed out of the relationship or were they pulled out? And she definitely pulled him out. So ever since, he and I have been best friends. We've communicated. He stopped vilifying me. He's very tender and gentle and loving in text. He says, I love you. He says, be patient. But it feels like phase 3 has lasted forever. And she's about to come back in a couple of weeks. So the first time she came, he was definitely phase 2. The second time she came, he like shot up, but then went on, it was like he crashed right afterwards and was drinking and just, he came straight to me the day she flew home, and he stayed with me for a week and a half. And now it's like she's coming again in a couple of weeks, and I'm anticipating that it's going to shoot back up to 2 when they get in one another's company. But it's like I'm trying really hard not to get anxious about it and maintain the smart contact, but he's wanting to open up to me more. He's calling me and confessing so much more of how sorry he is that he's done this to me, and he's waiting on God to reveal to him what he should do, which I had to be very careful not to respond to. But
so how can we help you? What's your specific question?
I know that typically the long distance affairs last longer, and we're 18 months in, and I understand that we can't predict this, but I almost feel like is it typical that it dissipates, or will there just be like a turnaround, I guess? Because I'm trying to do everything I know to do based on the principles that you've recommended, based on his behavior. But I also need a little bit of hope, I guess, because it feels like we've been in phase 3 forever. And
so I'm not understanding. What is your specific question? How can we help you?
My specific question is, can you tell with long distance emotional affairs, like when it's really phase 3, or if it's a dip in phase 2 that you've talked about?
There's no way on earth anybody can know what phase anybody's in. The reason I teach about the phases is because of the fact that it helps people see that it's not linear, that it actually has a path, but it's an arc.
Right.
And that even in an arc, it's not linear. It's like all over the place. And so that's why I teach about the phases. But when somebody asks me, is this phase 2, is this phase 3, is this phase 1, my response always is, I don't know. And if you were to ask your husband,
maybe I can ask you more. I have a specific question now. I do.
Okay. All right.
Can they go back to 2 and stay there for a really long time? Is that typical, or is it phase 3 with like moments of phase 2?
There's no way I can answer that question because I don't know your husband. Do people sometimes move from one phase back to the previous phase? The answer is yes. Is it possible that a person might go back to that phase and last longer? The answer is yes, it's possible. But then anything is possible. So I still have no way to answer the question. Do you have any way to answer that question, Kimber?
No, but I was reading over this weekend, I was reading some different research studies and things, and they were saying how people, when they're going through suffering, if they have a why, if they can understand why it's happening, it can be easier for them to go through it. And so as I'm listening to Karen talk and ask you questions, I'm wondering, Karen, if that's kind of where you are. If you're just wanting to know a why, like, why is this happening? What's going on behind it? Because from mine and Joe's point of view, we're sitting here, and from our side, we're like, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what stage he's in.
Yeah.
Because the things that you do don't change. Right. And if you're just looking for that why, so that you can handle it a little better to get you through the next set amount of time that's unknown, then I completely understand that. But I don't know that you're ever really going to understand the why. Does it happen? Absolutely. Do people go back and forth? Absolutely. Do we know what your husband's doing? Absolutely not. But you're not alone in what you're going through. There's many other women who are experiencing this, who have experienced this, who are going through it. Is there still hope for your situation? Yeah. Absolutely. The only thing that...
But he's not really showing the phases, the signs of phase 2, like the vilification and not wanting to talk to me. And
right.
It's like he gravitates more to me. When she was here the last time, he was sneaking off to text me and call me. And he kept telling me that he loved me and he didn't, just to please don't give up on him. So I don't know, it's hard to, I'm just trying to respond the best I know how with the guidance that you have given me.
Well, I think Kimberly's actually mentioned it. It's like you do the same things. Mm-hmm. You do those things. Right. By the way, there are many people that go through limerence that never do vilification, never do rewriting history. When we talk about it, we talk about the generalities, what may happen, not necessarily that this is a sign of this and this is a sign of that. But what she's saying is absolutely true. What you do, well, say it again, because you said it very well.
This isn't how I said it before. I don't remember what I said. You focus on you. I mean, that's the first thing you do. You, instead of wrapping your mind up in what are they thinking, what are they doing, where are they, if that is what your focus is, then your end goal is, it just makes it so much harder because you're focusing all of your happiness, your contentment, the way that you feel like things are going based on another person, which you have no control over. The only thing that you can do is control what you're doing, working on your pies, the things that we talk about, doing the smart contact, all of those things that we teach, and figuring out how you define success. Success may not be, and I'm not saying this for Karen, but in general, is it a success if your spouse ends up coming back, but you end up having a terrible marriage, you haven't set any boundaries, and things go back to the way they used to be, but your marriage is back together? Or could it also be a success that maybe you do everything right, you're focusing on your pies, you know you've done everything that you need to do, and your marriage still ends? Is that a failure? No.
No, not necessarily.
So ideally, we want the marriage to come back together, we've done everything we can, and it turns out to be a better marriage than before. But my encouragement to so many people that I talk to is redefine what you define as success. Is it just that your husband's responding to your text messages? Or is it that you're becoming a better person? You're able to deal with the anxiety better. You're able to handle the situation no matter what the circumstances around you are. I see that as a better success.
Well, we always think that putting the marriage back together is a goal because that's why we exist.
That's the ideal success.
And so don't misunderstand. And what Kimberly's saying is you put measurements to that of what's most important to me here. Right? Because if, like, for example, if your spouse disrespects you, treats you terribly, and abuses you emotionally, and you put the marriage back together, but that doesn't get any better,
right?
Was that a success?
Right.
I think it's very reasonable.